There were 4 officers, the Lieutenant Colonel, Major B., O., and myself, and 4 non commissioned officers. It would have been dangerous to deplete the firing line further. With heavy hearts we retraced our steps through the wood we had so lately passed through in all the exaltation of our advance. We knew the moral anguish we were about to feel in rendering this last service to our young brothers in arms. It was, unhappily, by no means the first time we had held such a ceremony, but never had I been present at one in such tragic circumstances, nor in such impressive surroundings. We hurried along, almost running in our anxiety to return quickly to our men. The branches caught at us and slashed at our faces, the dead leaves and twigs crackled under our tread. Above us the shells still sang their funeral song. We had now come in sight of the burial ground. In the moonlight, at the edge of the wood, close to the spot where our gallant fellows had fallen, we could distinguish newly dug earth, and 4 silent men standing beside it, their tunics thrown off, leaning on spade and pickaxe. It was there. In a little ravaged garden plot, at the foot of the great trees which would guard these graves, they had dug 2 holes, which, by night, looked extraordinarily deep and dark. Ought we to lament or to envy the touching and simple burial rite of soldiers? To me nothing could be more beautiful than such a last resting place. Why should we desire richer tombs, sepulchre stones, and sculptured monuments? We are all equal upon that field of death, the battlefield at the close of day, and there can be no fitter shroud for him who has fallen on that field than his soldier's cloak. A little earth that will be grass-grown and flower-spangled again in the spring, a simple cross of rough wood, a name, a regimental number, a date, all this is better than the most splendid obsequies. And what can be more touching than the poor little bunches of wild flowers which the friends of the dead gather on the banks of ditches, and which are to be seen days afterwards, faded and yet so fair, hanging on the humble crosses? Such was to be the portion of Lagaraldi and Durand. Why should we pity them? We will weep for them. We will not pity them. They were there, lying side by side in their cloaks, the turned-up capes of which shrouded their heads, and we bared our own in silence. Each of us, consciously or unconsciously, breathed a prayer. Each set his teeth and tried to restrain his tears. But we were not destined to pray in peace to the end. At the moment when the Lieutenant Colonel was about to express our sorrow and pronounce the last farewell, the enemy's mortars, suddenly changing their objective, began to bombard the part of the wood on the edge of which we were standing. What was their idea? Did they think our reserves were massed in the wood? However this may have been, a formidable avalanche descended above and around us. The first salvo literally cleared the wood close by us. A great tree, cut through the middle, bent over for an instant, and then rolled gently to the ground with a great crackling of broken boughs. At the same time the German bullets began to whistle around us by thousands, apparently determined to draw us into their frenzied saraband. Death seemed for a moment inevitable. We could not hesitate. We had to take cover, or be mown down by shot and shell. Then, I shall remember the gruesome moment to my dying hour, we all leapt into the only available shelter, crouching together in the newly dug graves. We were just in time. Bullets flew past us. The great coal boxes burst without intermission. The uproar was tremendous, beyond anything we had ever heard. It would be impossible to describe the horror of those minutes. Those graves, all too spacious for the poor bodies we were about to commit to them, were too small to shelter us. We pressed one against the other in the strangest positions, hiding our heads between the shoulders of those who were lying in front of us. We thought every moment that the network of projectiles would be drawn more tightly round us, and that one would fall into our holes, transforming them into a ghastly charnel house. This idea occurred to me suddenly and obsessed me. Yes, presently the great snorting, whistling, pitiless thing would fall between O and me. We would feel nothing. There would be no pain. We should be only a little heap of bloody clay, and to-morrow at daybreak our comrades would but have to throw a few spadefuls of earth upon it. They would put a plain wooden cross above, and with our name and ranks, the number of our regiment, a date, November 3rd, 1914, and it would be better than any sumptuous monument. Hush! Listen! Between two explosions, in spite of the noise of the German bullets, we distinctly heard the crack of our carbines. "Our men are fighting!" We all understood, and with one bound we were up and running frantically through the wood. How was it that none of us were killed? How did we manage to escape the shells and bullets which were cropping the branches and felling the trees around us? I shall never understand or forget this experience. When at last we sprang breathless into our trench after what had seemed an interminable race, the tumult had died down again, and only occasional shots broke the nocturnal calm. The reason of the sudden renewal of the fighting was given at once by F. "Bravo!" he cried. "We have retaken the infantry chasseurs' trench." This was a great consolation to us, for we were all full of regret at the loss of this little piece of ground. It had prevented us from feeling quite satisfied with our day. Now all was well. Our task was accomplished. On the following day, November 4, at 3 in the morning, a battalion of the regiment of Line came to relieve us. It formed part of that glorious 20th Corps, which has covered itself with glory ever since the beginning of the war, and fought all along the front from Lorraine to Flanders, always arriving at the moment when picked men were needed to make a last desperate effort. It had come up that evening, and was at once on the spot. In the cold, luminous night, the heavily laden infantrymen defiled into the narrow trench, calm, silent, and serious. The officer, who was to take my place, presented himself smartly, as if on the parade ground. "Lieutenant X." I gave my name. "My dear fellow," he said, "I am delighted to shake hands with you. Allow me to say how much we admire your regiment. Your General has just told us how your Chasseurs have behaved. Accept my congratulations. We could not have done better ourselves. The cavalry is certainly taking first place as a fighting force. Your regiment is to be mentioned in despatches, and you deserve it. Good night and good luck." "Thank you. Good luck." Once more we passed through the wood to take up our positions in reserve. Our men were beginning to feel the fatigue of those 2 days without sleep and almost without rest. But joy, stronger than bodily fatigue, predominated. It hovered over our harassed troops. Above all, they were proud of having been appreciated and congratulated by their brothers in arms of the crack corps which is the admiration of the whole army. Each man forgot his tortured nerves, his aching head, his weary legs, repeating to himself the magic words, "Your regiment is to be mentioned in despatches." End of chapter 6. Recording by FNH. Visit www.bookranger.co.uk.